Cold rain poured over the broken road as a young human boy named Ethan walked home from his late shift at the scrapyard, his clothes soaked, his stomach empty, and his old boots full of holes. He was only 17, but life had already made him tougher than most. He lived alone in a small hut outside the alien city of Varine, a place where humans were ignored and looked down upon. As thunder roared above, Ethan saw a flash of silver in the distance. It wasn't lightning, it was metal. A huge luxury hovercar had crashed into the ditch by the side of the road. Steam rising from its engines, the door was open, lights flickering weakly, and inside someone was moving. He ran closer, his heart racing. When he reached the wreck, his breath caught. Inside sat a beautiful alien woman, skin pale blue, her eyes glowing faintly gold. She was clearly injured, one arm bleeding. But what froze Ethan was her swollen belly. She was pregnant and in pain. "Help," she whispered weakly, her voice trembling like cold wind. Ethan didn't think twice. He tore off his jacket and pushed through the twisted metal. "Don't move, I'll get you out," he said quickly, trying to stay calm though fear shook his hands. The woman gasped, gripping her stomach. "The baby, it's coming!" His mind spun, rain beating down harder. He looked around, but there was no one. No lights. No sound except the storm. The alien city was miles away. The woman's breathing grew faster, pain tightening every sound. He looked at her once more. She was scared, but her eyes held trust, a silent plea. Ethan nodded. "I won't let you die here." With all his strength, he ripped open the bent door and pulled her out. The cold wind hitting them both, she winced, clutching his arm as he guided her toward a small shed nearby, old and half-broken. It wasn't much, but it was shelter. Inside, Ethan laid her on the ground, covering her with his own jacket. "You'll be fine," he said, but his voice cracked. He had never helped anyone give birth before. He barely knew what to do, but he couldn't leave her. The alien woman's breathing quickened, tears sliding down her cheeks. "My name is Lysera," she whispered. "Please." "Save my baby," Ethan swallowed hard. "I'll try, Lysera. Just stay with me." He found a rusted bucket, fetched warm water from a small generator heater, and searched his old med kit. He had no real tools, no doctor's gear, just courage. Hours passed like eternity. The storm grew worse outside. Lightning flashed through the cracks, and Ethan worked with trembling hands, giving her water, wiping her forehead, keeping her alive with sheer willpower. Finally, after endless cries and pain, a faint sound filled the air. A baby's cry, weak but real. Ethan's heart stopped for a second. Then he smiled, holding the tiny alien infant. Glowing faintly like starlight, Lysera sobbed softly, reaching out for the baby. "You saved my child," she whispered. "You are human." Ethan nodded, placing the baby in her arms. "Yeah, just a human," he said quietly. Lysera looked at him with wide eyes. "My husband, he's powerful. Dangerous men will come for me soon. You must go." But Ethan shook his head. "No, I won't leave you. Not like this." Just then, a deep hum echoed outside. Lights flashed through the rain. 3 armored vehicles landed on the muddy road, armed guards stepping out. Their eyes scanned the area. "Searching?" Lysera's face turned pale. "They've found us," she whispered. Fear in her voice. Ethan stood, heart pounding. He didn't know who they were, but something told him they weren't here to rescue her. "Stay quiet," he whispered. "I'll handle it." He peeked outside through the broken wall. The guards were spreading out, one of them shouting into a comm, "The lady must be alive." The boss said, "Bring her back, alive or not, doesn't matter." Ethan's fists clenched. He didn't understand everything, but he understood danger. He turned to Lysera. "Who are they?" Her eyes filled with pain and fear. "They work for my husband," she said softly. "The billionaire of Varine. He thinks I betrayed him. He doesn't know about the baby's truth." Ethan's breath caught. He looked at her and then at the baby, lightning flashing across their faces in that moment. He realized this night wasn't just about saving a life. It was about defying something far bigger. As footsteps approached the shed, Ethan grabbed a metal rod from the corner. His heart beating like thunder, he whispered, "They'll have to go through me first, outside." The guards drew closer and the storm roared louder. The night was just beginning. Rain slammed against the shed roof as Ethan stood in front of the door, his body trembling but his grip tight on the metal rod. The woman behind him, Lysera, held her newborn close, her face pale and eyes full of fear. Outside, muffled voices echoed through the storm. "Lights cutting through the darkness, there!" One guard shouted, "Footprints! Human and alien both!" Ethan's heart pounded faster. He knew he couldn't fight them all, but something deep inside refused to let him back down. He had risked everything for Lysera and her child, and now he had to finish what he started, Lysera whispered weakly. "You must run. They'll kill you if they find you here." But Ethan shook his head. "Not without you," he said firmly. "I'm not the type to walk away when someone needs me." A loud crash shook the door as one of the guards kicked it open. Ethan swung the rod with all his strength, hitting the first soldier in the chest. The alien stumbled back, growling in pain. Another guard raised a plasma rifle, but Ethan ducked, grabbed a handful of dirt, and threw it into the alien's glowing eyes. The moment bought him seconds, but seconds mattered. He slammed the door shut again, jamming it with a broken plank. His breath came in quick gasps. "We have to go, now," he said. Turning to Lysera, she nodded weakly. Holding the baby tight, Ethan helped her to her feet, and together they slipped out through the back wall of the shed, crawling through the mud and broken grass. The night was dark and cold, but the forest beyond was darker. Behind them, voices shouted, weapons fired. Bolts of plasma lighting the rain like blue lightning. One blast hit the ground near Ethan's leg. Burning the mud, he gritted his teeth and kept running. After several minutes of desperate escape, they reached a small ravine filled with fog. Ethan helped Lysera climb down carefully, the baby crying softly in her arms. When they reached the bottom, they took shelter under a fallen tree. Lysera trembled. "You shouldn't have done this," she whispered. "They'll hunt you now too," Ethan gave a tired smile. "I've been hunted by debt collectors and bullies all my life. I can handle a few more." Her eyes softened, for the first time showing a faint trace of warmth. "You're just a boy, yet you act like a soldier." He shrugged. "When the world stops caring, you learn to fight for yourself." Lightning flashed again. Revealing Lysera's tear-streaked face, she held her child close and said softly, "His name will be Eris." Ethan looked down at the small glowing infant, the light from his eyes reflecting faintly on the wet mud. "That's a strong name," he said quietly. "He'll grow up knowing his mother fought for him." But then her expression changed, turning dark. "My husband, Tarek Vern," she said with pain in her voice. "He owns half this planet. People call him the Steel Tycoon. But he's not what he seems." Ethan frowned. "You said he sent those guards." Lysera nodded slowly. "When I told him the baby wasn't his, he wanted me dead," she whispered. "But he doesn't know the truth. The child's real father was a human engineer who worked for him. A kind man, loyal, but he was executed when Tarek found out I loved him." Ethan's eyes widened. The storm rumbled like it was listening. "So the baby's half human?" "Yes," she whispered. "And that's why Tarek wants him gone. He calls my child an abomination." Ethan clenched his fists, anger burning through his fear. "That's not an abomination. That's a miracle." Lysera's eyes filled with tears again. "You sound just like him, the man I loved." A sudden sound broke the moment. Distant engines roaring through the rain again. The guards were scanning the forest now, bright beams cutting through the fog. Ethan took a deep breath. "We can't stay here. I know a place, a storm bunker near the old scrapyard. Nobody goes there." Lysera hesitated, but the look in his eyes gave her strength. "All right," she said. "Lead the way." They began moving through the forest, every branch snapping beneath their steps, sounding like thunder. The baby cried softly, and Lysera tried to hush him. Halfway through the woods, Ethan noticed something strange. A small drone hovering above them. Its red light blinking, he froze, realizing it was one of Tarek's scanners. "Down," he whispered, pulling Lysera under a bush. The drone buzzed overhead, scanning the ground. A moment later, it beeped twice and flew away. Ethan sighed in relief. That was close. Lysera looked at him with surprise. "How do you know so much about their tech?" He smiled faintly. "I fix junk for a living. Sometimes good junk, too." When they finally reached the edge of the scrapyard, Ethan lifted a metal panel hidden behind old engines. Beneath it was a tunnel leading into the ground. "Here, it's safe," he said. They crawled inside, finding an old bunker filled with dusty tools and broken lights. Ethan turned on a small lamp powered by his portable battery. The soft glow lit the small room. Lysera laid her baby down on a pile of cloth, her face finally relaxing. "You risked your life for me," she said softly. "Why?" Ethan looked at her quietly. "Because someone has to do the right thing, even when it costs." She stared at him for a long moment before whispering, "If Tarek ever meets you, He won't understand why a human boy saved his wife and child. Ethan gave a small smirk. Then maybe it's time he learns. Outside, far above, Tarek Vern stood in his hoverjet, watching the scanners display. His eyes narrowed as the system marked a faint heat signal near the scrapyard. He leaned forward and said coldly, "Find them. Alive." The hunt had only just begun. By dawn, the storm had calmed. The world outside was silent except for the dripping sound of rain from rusted metal sheets. Ethan sat near the bunker door, his eyes heavy from a night without sleep. He listened to the faint breaths of Lysera and her baby behind him. Both finally resting, he had risked everything for strangers. But something inside told him he did the right thing. He couldn't explain why, only that the thought of leaving her in the rain haunted him. Above ground, far away in the city of glass towers, a massive hoverjet landed on a private pad. Alien guards surrounded it as a tall figure stepped out. Tarek Vern, the steel tycoon himself, his eyes were sharp like blades. His suit dark and spotless, he looked more machine than man. His personal aide bowed. "Sir, the trackers located a faint heat signature near the outskirts. Possibly the human zone." Tarek's expression darkened. "She wouldn't run there unless she was desperate," he said coldly. "Send the patrols, but this time, I'll go myself." The guards hesitated. "Sir, it's dangerous." Tarek cut him off. "She carries my name and my shame. I will end this myself." Back in the bunker, Lysera stirred. Her face was pale but calm. She looked at Ethan and whispered, "You stayed awake all night?" He shrugged, trying to smile. "Couldn't sleep knowing a billionaire's army is looking for me." Her lips curved faintly. "You're brave for a human," Ethan laughed softly. "Or stupid." The moment was quiet, almost peaceful, until a distant hum filled the air, a sound too deep, too powerful. The ground vibrated slightly. Ethan's expression hardened. "They're here." He peeked through a small crack in the ceiling vent. A large hovercraft hovered above the scrapyard, guards spreading out with weapons drawn, and in the center of them stood a tall figure in black armor. Lysera's breath caught. "It's him," she whispered. "Tarek," Ethan turned to her. "You said he wants you dead? But now he's come himself. Why?" Lysera looked down at her baby. "Because he doesn't believe I can defy him. To him, I'm still his property." Ethan clenched his jaw. Then maybe it's time someone showed him humans aren't his servants. He grabbed a small EMP grenade from the old scrap parts and began rewiring it using wires in a power cell. Lysera watched in surprise. "You know how to make that?" "I fix everything from broken engines to stolen bots," he said, twisting a screw. "This one will blind their scanners long enough for us to move." As the footsteps neared, he handed her a small metal ring. "It's from my mother, keep it safe." She looked at it. Confused, "Why give it to me?" He smiled faintly. "Because I don't know if I'll make it out of this." Before she could answer, the bunker door blasted open with a loud crash. The air filled with smoke and dust. Guards stormed in, shouting commands. Ethan triggered the EMP. Blue sparks erupted. Lights flickered, and all devices went dead for a few seconds. He grabbed Lysera's hand. "Go! Take the back tunnel." She hesitated. "What about you?" "I'll hold them," he shouted, pushing her toward the exit. The room exploded into chaos. Ethan swung a metal pipe, striking one guard down. Another raised his blaster, but Ethan rolled behind an engine core, using it as cover. Then a deep, commanding voice echoed through the smoke. "Enough!" The guards froze. The smoke parted slowly, revealing Tarek himself, tall and terrifying, his glowing red eyes fixed on Ethan. "So," Tarek said calmly, "this is the human who dares touch what's mine." Ethan stood still, breathing hard. "She's not yours, she's a person. And so is that baby." Tarek's expression darkened. "That thing is a mistake that should have never existed." Ethan stepped forward, anger boiling inside him. "Funny. Most mistakes I've seen had more heart than the people who made them." The guards tensed, waiting for the order to fire, but Tarek raised his hand, curious. "You speak boldly for someone so small?" Ethan met his gaze. "Maybe that's why humans survive. We don't need power to do what's right." Tarek's eyes narrowed. "You think saving her means anything? Do you know what she did?" Ethan stayed silent. Tarek stepped closer, his tone colder. "She betrayed me. She hit a human lover in my own company. She broke every law of our world." Ethan's voice was low but steady. "Maybe your world needs breaking for the first time." Tarek paused, his expression shifted, not anger, but something like confusion before he could speak again. A soft cry echoed, the baby's cry. It came from the tunnel behind Ethan. Lysra hadn't gotten far. Tarek's eyes followed the sound, and for a moment, something flickered behind them, an emotion he didn't want to show. He whispered almost to himself. It cries like him, Ethan frowned. Like who? Tarek didn't answer. He stepped closer, his eyes colder again. Move aside, boy, or I'll burn everything in this scrapyard to ash. Ethan lifted his chin. Then you'll have to start with me. For a moment, silence filled the air. Only the rain dripping from broken pipes then. A sharp voice echoed from behind the guards. It was Lysra, holding her child tightly, standing firm. If you want him, you'll have to face the truth first, she said, her tone trembling but brave. Tarek turned slowly. Eyes wide for the first time. What truth? He demanded. Lysra took a step forward. That the man you executed, the human engineer, you never killed him completely, she said softly, because his heart beats right here. She touched her baby's chest. And this boy you call nothing just saved both of us. Tarek's face turned pale, the words hitting harder than any weapon. Ethan looked between them, the tension thick as thunder. And for the first time in his life, the most powerful alien on Varine had no words. The bunker fell into heavy silence. The only sound was the soft whimper of the newborn, echoing like a heartbeat between three lives, one human boy, one broken woman, and one alien billionaire who once ruled without mercy. Tarek Verne stood frozen, the glow in his cybernetic eyes dimming slightly. His guards waited for an order, but none came. The truth Lysra spoke had sliced through his pride like a blade. You lie, he finally said, his voice low, almost trembling. That human is dead. I watched his execution myself. Lysra held her child tighter, her blue skin pale under the flickering light. You watched him die, but his love lived on. You can kill a body, Tarek, not a soul. Ethan stood between them, watching the storm of emotion build in the Tycoon's face. It wasn't just anger, there was confusion, disbelief, and a shadow of regret. Tarek's voice hardened again. Enough of this nonsense. Guards, take them, but no one moved. The guards exchanged glances, uncertain. They had seen many sides of their master. But never hesitation, Ethan stepped forward, still gripping his makeshift weapon. You really think that'll fix anything? He said. Killing her. Killing the baby. What does that make you? A leader or a coward hiding behind power? Tarek's gaze snapped toward him. You dare? Ethan didn't back down. You think power means control? But all I see is fear, fear of what this child means. The Tycoon's fists clenched. The air between them felt charged. Lysra's voice softened. Tarek, look at him, she said, moving closer. Look at your son, he turned sharply, eyes narrowing. My son? Yes, she said through tears. The man you executed wasn't the father you thought. You had the test results destroyed before they reached you. You were blinded by rage, by pride, but this child, he carries your blood, your DNA. The words hit him like a thunderstrike. For a long moment, Tarek didn't speak. The guards shifted uneasily, unsure whether to stay or flee. Ethan blinked in confusion. Wait. You mean? Lysra nodded faintly. Yes, the baby is his, not the engineer's. Ethan stepped back slightly, his mind racing. Then why run? Tears welled in Lysra's golden eyes. Because he stopped being the man I loved. He became something else, cold, distant, dangerous. I couldn't raise a child in that world of cruelty. Tarek's expression broke for the first time, his voice cracked. You ran because of me. Lysra nodded slowly. You used to dream of peace between humans and my kind. You built hospitals, shelters. Then you changed after your first war deal. You lost yourself, Tarek. You became the steel tycoon everyone feared. The words burned through him like acid. Ethan finally lowered his rod. The fight inside him replaced by pity. He saw now not a monster, but a man crushed by his own power. Tarek stepped closer, his tone softer. Show me the child, Lysra hesitated, holding her baby protectively, then slowly she turned. The tiny infant's eyes opened, bright gold with a faint ring of green, a perfect mix of both parents. Tarek stared, his breath shaking. By the stars, he whispered. He has my eyes. For the first time in years, his armor of arrogance cracked, his knees weakened, and he sank slowly to the ground, one hand trembling as he reached toward the child. But he stopped midway as if afraid to touch him. Ethan watched silently. The air felt heavy but peaceful. Until a sudden voice broke the moment. "Sir, we have incoming ships," one of the guards said urgently. "It's the corporate enforcers. They tracked your signal." "They think you've gone rogue." Tarek's eyes widened. "They're here already?" Lysera clutched her baby. "They'll kill us all." Tarek stood quickly. His authority returning. "Not if I stop them," he turned to Ethan. "You, boy, there's an exit tunnel behind the fuel tanks. Take her and the child through it." "I'll hold them off." Ethan frowned. "Hold them off? Alone? They'll kill you." Tarek gave a small, tired smile. "I've faced worse besides. I owe both of you more than my life." Lysera's voice shook. "Tarek, don't—" He turned to her, and for a brief second the old warmth returned in his eyes. "If I don't do this, then everything I've built, everything I destroyed, will mean nothing." Ethan hesitated, torn between running and staying. "You're serious, aren't you?" Tarek looked at him. "You risked your life for my family. Now I do the same for yours." The sound of engines grew louder, the air vibrating as enemy crafts descended through the clouds. Tarek grabbed a plasma rifle from one of his guards. "Get them to safety," he ordered. Ethan nodded reluctantly. "We'll come back for you." A faint smile crossed the alien Tycoon's face. "If I'm lucky," he said. Then he turned and walked into the light of the storm, rain splashing against his armor as ships descended overhead. His voice echoed across the scrapyard. "You wanted the steel Tycoon. Come take him." Ethan pulled Lysera through the tunnel, his chest tight with dread as they crawled deeper. The walls trembled from explosions above. The baby cried softly. Lysera's tears mixed with the dirt on her face. When they finally reached the other side, the night sky glowed red behind them. Fire lighting the horizon, Lysera whispered. "He stayed to save us." Ethan looked back, jaw clenched. "Then I'll make sure it wasn't for nothing." Above, Tarek stood amid smoke and chaos, fighting with fury not for power but for redemption. And somewhere in the shadows, a drone recorded everything, the proof that would soon shake the entire planet. Flames painted the night sky crimson as Ethan led Lysera and her newborn through the dark tunnel. The sound of explosions echoed above them, each one shaking the ground like a living heartbeat of war. Dust fell from the ceiling and Lysera stumbled, clutching her baby tightly. "Keep moving," Ethan said, his voice hoarse but firm. "We're almost there." Behind them, the roar of battle grew louder. Tarek's men fought like soldiers possessed. But Ethan knew deep down, the Tycoon wasn't fighting for wealth anymore. He was fighting for something far more powerful: regret. After several long minutes, the tunnel opened into a hollow ridge overlooking the city. From there, they could see the skyline of Varine burning in the distance, massive hovercrafts hovering above, dropping fire and thunder. Lysera's voice trembled. "He stayed behind so we could live." Ethan nodded silently. "And we're not going to waste that." He guided her toward a small shack near the ridge, a hideout used by scavengers. Inside were broken bots, spare batteries, and an old data core flickering faintly. Ethan knelt beside it, wiping the dust away. "If this thing still works, I can use it to send a signal, something that'll make the world see the truth." Lysera frowned softly. "What truth?" He looked up at her. That he's not a monster anymore, that the Tycoon they feared. "Tied saving his family." She hesitated, tears filling her eyes. "You'd risk everything for him, after all he's done?" Ethan's voice was quiet but steady. "Because if people see change in a man like him, maybe they'll start believing in something better. Maybe they'll stop seeing humans as trash for a moment." She said nothing, only watching him as he worked. His fingers moved quickly, connecting wires, rerouting energy cells. The screen flickered alive with a weak hum. On the screen appeared static. Then footage. Tarek's drone recording from the scrapyard. It showed him standing in the rain, defending them, shouting at the enforcers, refusing to surrender. His final words echoed through the static. "You wanted the steel Tycoon. Come take him." Lysera gasped, her hand covering her mouth. He knew it was recording. Ethan nodded. He wanted the galaxy to see it. He uploaded the footage to the interstellar data network using an old pirate frequency. Dangerous. Illegal, but fast. "Once this goes live, everyone will know what he did," he said within minutes. The feed began spreading across human colonies, alien networks, and trade stations. The face of Tarek Verne, the once cold-hearted billionaire, filled every hollow screen. His voice, proud and defiant, echoed across the stars. Lysera sat down slowly, holding her baby, tears rolling down her cheeks. He'll be remembered not as a tyrant, but as a father. Ethan smiled faintly. And maybe as the first to stand for both our kinds. But their moment of peace was short. Outside, the faint sound of hover engines approached again. Ethan's heart sank. They found us, he whispered, grabbing a wrench and a small blaster. Lysira stood quickly, panic flashing in her eyes. We can't run anymore. No, Ethan said firmly. But we can end it. He peeked outside and saw 2 corporate enforcer crafts landing nearby. Armed aliens stepping out with glowing rifles. They weren't Tarek's men. These were killers. Sent to erase evidence, Ethan whispered. Stay behind me. No matter what, Lysira shook her head. No. You can't fight them alone, he smiled faintly. Then let's fight together. The first group stormed the shack. Ethan fired the blaster, hitting one in the shoulder. Another lunged at him, knocking him down. The fight was brutal, loud, chaotic. He swung the wrench. Blocking a strike, sparks flying, Lysira screamed as one enforcer aimed at her. But before he could fire, a loud explosion rocked the ridge. The ground shook and the enforcers stumbled back. Out of the smoke came a damaged hovercraft, its wings burning but still flying. The craft landed roughly, its door bursting open, and from the smoke, a figure stepped out, armor cracked, one arm bleeding, eyes glowing faint red. It was Tarek Verne. Alive, barely standing, but alive, Lysira gasped. Tarek! He looked at her weakly, then at Ethan. I told you to run, boy, he said with a faint smirk. Ethan grinned despite himself. And I told you we'd come back. Tarek lifted his blaster and aimed at the enforcers. Then let's finish this. The battle flared again, fire, plasma, smoke. It was chaos, but this time, they fought together. Ethan and Tarek side by side, human and alien. Both bleeding, both unbroken. When the last enforcer fell, silence filled the ridge again. The flames slowly faded and dawn began to break. Tarek fell to his knees, exhausted. His armor was cracked. His breath heavy, Lysira rushed to him. Hold on, she whispered. Please. Stay with me. He smiled weakly, touching her cheek. I thought I'd forgotten what love felt like, he whispered. But tonight, I remembered. He looked at Ethan. You remind me of the man I used to be before power. Before hate. Ethan swallowed hard. You're not done yet. You can still make things right. Tarek looked at the horizon where the rising sun broke through the smoke. The world saw the truth, didn't it? Ethan nodded slowly. They did. A faint smile crossed Tarek's face. Then maybe. I can rest knowing my son will live free. He closed his eyes for a moment. His breathing slowing, Lysira held his hand tightly, tears falling like rain. Ethan turned away, unable to watch, but then a faint light blinked on Tarek's wrist. A transmitter. Still active, a final voice message played softly, Tarek's voice echoing through the air. To whoever finds this, humans are not our enemies. They are the missing strength of our kind. Protect them. As I once failed to do, the message ended. And silence fell again, Lysira whispered. He's gone. Ethan looked at her, his eyes wet but steady. No. He's finally free. The sun rose higher, shining on the baby's glowing eyes, half human, half alien, a symbol of everything that had changed. Ethan took a deep breath. Come on, he said softly. We've got a new world to build. And somewhere across the galaxy, millions watched the recording of that night. A human boy, an alien mother, and a powerful man who gave everything for one simple truth. Humanity still mattered, even among the stars. 3 days had passed since the night that set the galaxy on fire. The name Tarek Verne was now whispered with awe, not fear. Every hollow screen played the same footage. His final stand at the scrapyard. His last words before the explosion, and beside him, the unknown human boy who defied death to protect an alien mother and her newborn child. The world had changed overnight. In the capital city of Varine, protesters filled the streets. Humans and aliens stood side by side holding glowing signs that read, "No more chains. Unity through courage. Humanity still matters." But far from the noise, in a quiet settlement near the edge of the valley, Ethan sat outside a small metal hut, repairing a damaged communicator. The baby, little Eris, played in the sand beside him, his eyes glowing faintly gold and green. Lysira stood nearby, watching them with a soft smile. "He likes you more than he likes sleep," she said gently. Ethan chuckled. "He's part human. Of course he doesn't sleep much." They both laughed lightly, but beneath their smiles was a silent grief. Tarek's loss still weighed heavy. He had become more than just a tycoon that night. He had become a legend, and legends left scars behind. Lysera walked closer, her long silver hair flowing in the warm breeze. "They're calling you the human who united Vareen," she said softly. "The boy who made a tyrant kneel." Ethan shook his head. "I didn't unite anything, he did, I just refused to look away." Before she could reply, the communicator in Ethan's hands buzzed faintly. The cracked screen flickered to life, an incoming message. Ethan frowned. "It's from the Vareen Council." He opened the signal, and a blue hologram appeared, an alien official with pale skin and firm eyes. "Human Ethan Rowe," the voice said. "The council requests your presence at the capital. The world must decide what comes next." Lysera's eyes widened. "They want to see you?" Ethan sighed. "Or blame me," he said dryly, but there was a spark of determination in his eyes. "Either way, I'll go." That night, as the two sons of Vareen sat behind the mountains, Ethan packed his things, a small satchel, an old wrench, and the metal ring he had once given Lysera. He looked at her quietly. "If anything happens," she shook her head quickly. "No, you'll come back, you're not done yet." Ethan smiled faintly. "You sound like him." The next morning, he traveled to the city, escorted by a convoy of council drones. The once bright capital now bore banners of both species, human and alien flags side by side. People stopped in the streets to look at him. Some bowed, some whispered, some simply stared. When he reached the council hall, the guards scanned him and led him inside. The chamber was massive, filled with alien leaders, human delegates, and countless reporters' holograms floated above showing news headlines. Tycoon's last words spark new alliance. Human teen defies death. Peace or revenge, what comes next? At the center sat the high speaker, an elderly alien with deep violet skin and calm eyes. "Ethan Rowe," he began. "You stand before this council as the human who risked everything to protect life. Tell us, what do you ask of us now?" The room went silent, all eyes fixed on the boy. Ethan took a deep breath, stepped forward, and said in simple, honest words, "All I want is a future where no child has to hide what they are, where no one calls a life unworthy because of blood or species." His voice trembled slightly but grew stronger. "Tarek Verne wasn't perfect, but he saw what we refused to see. Humans are not the enemy. They are the bridge, and if a man like him could change, then maybe the rest of us can too." For a moment, no one spoke. The silence was heavy. Then slowly, a few claps echoed from the back, then more, until the entire hall was filled with applause. The speaker nodded. "Your words will not be forgotten," he said solemnly. "The council will vote to lift all human labor restrictions on Vareen, effective immediately." Ethan blinked in disbelief. "You mean—" "Yes," the speaker said. "Freedom for all humans in our territory." Tears filled Ethan's eyes, but he quickly wiped them. "It's what he wanted," he whispered that evening. The streets of Vareen glowed brighter than ever before, fireworks lighting the alien sky. Humans walked freely for the first time in generations. Back in the settlement, Lysera watched the news broadcast on a flickering hollow screen. She smiled through her tears as Ethan's face appeared, nervous, humble and strong. The announcer's voice spoke proudly. From the scrapyards of Vareen to the halls of power, a human boy changed the destiny of two worlds. His courage turned fear into faith, and his heart reminded us what it means to be alive. Lysera looked down at baby Eris, who giggled at the glowing screen. "That's your hero, my son," she whispered softly. "The boy who saved us all." The night grew quiet, stars filling the sky far above the world. Orbiting satellites replayed the final message of Tarek Verne, his voice echoing across every station. "Let my mistake be the beginning of something better, not the end." Ethan stood on the balcony of the council quarters, looking at the stars, clutching the old ring in his hand. He whispered softly, "You got your wish, old man." And somewhere in that vast galaxy, the winds carried a feeling no machine could measure. Hope, for the first time in years. The galaxy didn't feel divided, it felt human. 1 month had passed since the council declared peace between humans and aliens. The once divided world of Vareen now pulsed with new life. Factories that once used human slaves now hired them as workers. Schools taught both languages, and the statue of Tarek Verne stood in the central square, his hand raised toward the sky, symbolizing the unity he died to protect. But far from the bright city, in a quiet valley by the river, Ethan had chosen a simpler life. He repaired machines for farmers, helped rebuild homes, and every morning he heard a baby's laughter echo through the hills. Lazara's small home stood beside his workshop, a place filled with warmth, laughter, and the smell of rain-soaked earth. Baby Aris had grown stronger, his bright golden-green eyes following every bird that flew overhead. Ethan often caught himself smiling just watching them. He had become something he never thought possible, part of a family. One evening, as the two suns dipped low and the sky turned violet, Lazara stepped outside, her long silver hair glimmering in the fading light. "He won't stop crawling," she said with a soft laugh. "He's going to break something soon," Ethan chuckled, wiping grease from his hands. "If he takes after me, he'll break everything before he learns to fix it," she smiled warmly. "You still don't believe what you've done, do you?" He shrugged. "I just helped someone who needed help. That's all." Lazara shook her head gently. "No, you changed a galaxy, Ethan. You made the most powerful people listen. You made them feel." He looked away, his voice quieter. "I didn't do it alone." Their eyes met for a moment, filled with unspoken gratitude, friendship, and something softer, something neither dared to name. A cool wind passed between them, carrying the faint sound of music from the city far away. It was the anniversary of peace, the Unity Day, the first in Varine's history. Ethan looked toward the horizon where fireworks began to bloom like stars. "They're celebrating," he said softly. He would have liked that. Lysera's expression softened. "Tarek?" He nodded slowly. For all his mistakes, he gave everything to make this possible. She took a deep breath, her golden eyes reflecting the fireworks. "He'd be proud of you. You know." Ethan smiled faintly. "And you?" Her lips curved slightly. "More than you'll ever know." Just then, a small hover drone approached, buzzing softly before landing on the fence post. A hologram flickered from its center. It was the image of the council speaker. "Ethan Rowe," the voice said. "The Galactic Council requests your presence at the memorial tomorrow. They want you to represent humanity as its first ambassador." Ethan froze, surprised. "Ambassador?" Lazara's eyes widened. "That's an honor." He hesitated. "I'm just a kid from a scrapyard. Not a politician." She smiled gently. "Maybe that's exactly why they need you." That night, as stars filled the endless sky, Ethan couldn't sleep. He sat outside by the fire, staring at the reflection of flames in the metal ring he still carried. In the distance, the river glowed under the moonlight, and he thought of all that had happened, of the storm, the rescue, the child's first cry, Tarek's last stand, and the day the world changed. He whispered softly, "If you can hear me, old man, I'll do it. I'll finish what you started." The next day, the city was alive with celebration. Flags waved, lights shimmered across towers, and millions gathered at the great plaza. At the center stood a marble monument, 3 figures carved together, one human, one alien, and one child reaching toward the stars. Ethan stepped onto the stage, dressed simply, yet the entire crowd fell silent when he approached the podium. He looked at them, humans, aliens, young and old, and said with a steady voice, "When I first met an alien, I didn't think I'd live to tell the story," he said with a faint smile. "But I learned something that night. Kindness doesn't belong to a species. It belongs to the heart. We fought, we feared, we hated. But one man's sacrifice proved something no war could erase. Hope is stronger than blood." The crowd listened, silent and still. Ethan continued, "Tarek Vurin wasn't perfect, and neither are we. But he taught us that redemption is not about forgetting the past. It's about changing the future. And as long as this child," he looked toward Lysra in the crowd holding Aris, "as long as children like him live free, then we've already won." The plaza erupted in applause. Thunderous and endless, fireworks burst above, painting the sky gold and blue. Lysra watched with tears in her eyes as Ethan bowed his head respectfully toward the statue. The crowd chanted his name, but he didn't smile. He only looked up at the sky and whispered, "This is for you, Tarek." Later that night, when the celebrations faded, Ethan stood by the river with Lazara and Aris. The water shimmered with the reflection of stars. Lysra spoke softly, "Do you ever wonder what comes next?" Ethan nodded. "Always," he said. "But maybe the next step isn't fighting for peace, it's learning to live in it." She smiled, placing her hand on his. "Then let's start with that." Aris giggled, reaching toward the stars, his tiny hand glowing softly in the night. Ethan looked at him and whispered, One day you'll go beyond them, kid, and when you do, remember, you come from two worlds, but your heart belongs to both. The wind carried their laughter across the valley, gentle and free. Above them, the sky shimmered with 1,000 stars, and somewhere among them, a single comet burned bright, like a promise that love, courage, and humanity would never fade, no matter how far they traveled. For in a galaxy filled with endless races, one story would always be remembered: the night a human boy saved an alien mother and changed the stars forever.